Welcome. This is the Climate Change Task Force special meeting at the Town Hall and online on this February 1st, 2023. Present, we have Michael Oman and Sandy Wilmot in the Town Hall, and online we have Cale Romanoff and Michelle Carell. Welcome. Are there any changes to the agenda that anyone saw? No? Seeing none, I have a few announcements, but I'll make those at a later date. Oh, hi, Karen. Welcome. We're just starting.
Hi. Good.
There's no public here, so we'll move right on to the town annual report. When I had drawn this up, it would have been for last week's meeting, and on Friday, Brad finished the annual report. So I can tell you that that annual report was posted, and hopefully you all agree with the content of it. Would you like to look at it now together? Let's see.
Yes. Yeah, that would be good.
I
Just
read it. I
lost.
didn't have any
Good
problems
idea.
with it when I read it. It's been a while. Thought it was fine.
So it talked a little bit about the formation of the committee, our purpose, a little bit about the meetings and what kind of speakers we had, such as Leslie Ann Climate Report, Brad, and others. And
Sandy,
Ann.
this is Michelle.
Yes.
I'm just seeing a blank white screen. I'm wondering what others are seeing.
I'm seeing a blank white screen.
Okay.
Yes, I found the email, so that's what I was looking at, but I'm looking at a blank screen on the meeting.
Well,
Like I was sharing.
I can
Hopefully for
open.
sharing, you'll see our,
Yeah,
the little blocks too.
you could let me share my screen, and maybe I can pop it up. If that's not, if
Sandy, who
that's
is with you tonight? I can't really
Pardon
see
me?
that. Who's in? Who's
Oh,
down?
Cale and Michelle are online, and Michael Oman and I are in the town hall. It's the big
Yeah,
room.
yeah, I can see that. You're in the big. No, I saw Cal and Michelle. I just couldn't see who was with you, but now I can see a man wearing black.
Okay, I gave you permission, Cale, if you wanted to.
okay. Let's see, it's that one. You guys see it now?
Yep.
Yes,
I can
thank you. And I
read it.
found it in my email too. So sorry. Yeah.
Let's see. I'll move on down to the 1, 2, 3, 4th is where we have different presentations. And then the 5th talks about Ann's involvement as in South Burlington and helping us to draft a plan. And then just the members of the task force. So it was short and as complete as we are.
Looks good.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay. I
Agreed.
had
Thank you.
hoped to allow you to actually say it was okay in person, but time kind of marched on there. Right. So the next part is really digging right into the draft climate action plan. I will say up front that I was having trouble saving all the edits, and I think, Michael, some of the things we worked together on never saved. I'm hoping that we'll be able to work on this draft and have it actually stick. I talked to Anne before the meeting, and she suggested that as a group, we go through all of the changes we'd like before she sees it again. That way we can narrow it down to things that we want to see in there, and then she can just work from there. The first thing I wanted to show, Kale.
Sandy, I have a question or a comment.
Sure.
Um, I was frustrated as I read it because I would have liked to have sort of edited it, and I can't. It was a PDF that I can't change. I know that one can. So is it possible that we could do it in either a Word doc with tracking of comments, or that's how we do it actually in the development review board, but or we could do it with what is it called? Gmail thing. Not
Google Docs.
Google Docs. Yeah.
I did send it as a Word document. Uh, I didn't really get anyone's actual Word document back with comments. I got more written comments back from people. We
Because I got
did,
a PDF.
you only
I
got a
I
PDF?
I
Yeah.
thought I marked up a Word
Yeah.
Mine
document.
was a
No.
mine was a Karen, mine was a Word document also, but it was like a PDF pasted in. But there was an
Oh,
option to go to Google Docs, and it opens up in a Google Doc where you can then edit it.
okay. I guess I didn't see that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
Yeah,
interrupt,
and
Sandy.
Michelle, I did get your comments. That's right, in a Word document. See, I work in Google Docs, and the transfer back and forth seems to be causing some problems where comments in particular don't save from when I put it into Word. So Steve Webster offered to create a site for us to work together on, a Google Doc. And I sent him our Gmail addresses, but I haven't heard back from him on that. So my hope is that for the next iteration, we can have one document that people can work on together.
I think Steve is just waiting for the go ahead on
Oh,
that,
okay,
is my sense of it.
okay. Well, I will get back to him on that
That's
then.
great, because I think that would be a great way to do it. Then, we don't have to pass around, even if it's tracked, we can
Yes,
have to pass it around, and it gets difficult then to make sure we're all working on the current iteration of the same thing.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. Um,
I know I have quite a few thoughts that, it would be a lot easier for me and maybe us, and we should put it in as suggestions, not as direct edits. So
right.
maybe we should set that up in that way so that we aren't editing the document, we're suggesting edits to the document, and then we can accept or not as how we want to do that. We do that in the Energy Committee now, where we're kind of learning. We're slow
I
learners,
know.
but we are learning.
Sometimes it takes a while,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Um, I'm going to attempt to share my screen again
Okay.
uh, so that we can look together at the. Can you see that one?
Is this the document that you sent around, the Word document?
Yeah, well, this is the additions to the
Oh, the additions. Okay,
document
yeah.
because I
That,
think this kind of frames certain things. Can you see it as a big document or is it just a window for you?
It's a
You're
window, I
looking
think.
online.
It's just a window, but I can zoom in on it at least.
Okay. Be a way that I can.
Well, yeah, that Zoom function works pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's fine as it is, unless anyone else is having problems.
No, I zoom in.
That's us here in the room. We can't see it.
I brought a copy, so on my computer.
Okay, well, yeah, there we go. A couple of comments that you all can consider. I found the copy and paste of the tables from the town plan to not be the greatest look for our document. I was going to suggest that we have, we redo them so that they're all consistent. People agree with that?
Yes,
I do, yes.
Okay.
yes.
The second comment is to add the strategies which are listed below into each of the sections so that people understand what we're trying to accomplish before they see what the high priority actions are. So yeah, I'd like to go through these quickly and make sure everyone agrees that those are the strategies, or modify them if needed. Um, Reduce fossil fuel use to heat and cool buildings, weatherize buildings to conserve energy, develop building standards that increase energy efficiency while using less carbon-rich sources, prepare buildings for increased heat and erratic weather, support the local economy by using local materials and labor, implement these strategies without undue burdens to vulnerable populations, and improve information on progress towards targets. Is there anything there that people would like to change?
I fiddled with it a little bit, as usual. So that's why I thought it would be good to be actually working in the document. But I actually folded sort of I thought two of them might be well folded together. The weatherized buildings to conserve energy, to heat and cool, and develop building standards all fall under the reduced fossil fuel use. I mean, it can be separate or it can be different, but they are kind of like both things that work toward that one. So that was one thing that I thought about. I'm wondering about the use of local materials. Is this a
Yeah,
realistic thing that we can actually be working toward, or where does that fit?
That crossed my mind too about the local materials. I think it's a good goal, but I wonder how much we can really actually do with that.
yeah.
Our brick factory, our brickyard, and sawmill seem to be on strike or something.
Well, if you think of local wood as Vermont wood, that would be
The,
one thing. But I do think that's, it's maybe not as prevalent as other wood materials.
I don't know if you're thinking, is that even realistic to? I mean, do we know where the wood comes from? And most two by fours are fir, I think, and I don't know how much of that we actually mill around here, and things like that. I don't know. It's like, um, I mean, I don't think it's terrible, but I just don't know if it's a.
Well,
Something we
you do
should
use
look
the word
into.
materials, so it doesn't have to be just wood. I think it comes off more as like a general guiding principle, not necessarily like I don't think we can really have anything stringent to get towards that. Anything like strict could be enacted based on that. But I still think it's a good goal to keep, you know, delivery costs down and the amount of miles traveled on your goods. I just wonder how much authority we'll have to do on it. I don't think there's really strong reason to pull it out though. I kind of agree with your sentiment. I do think it is a powerful enough goal to keep there though.
Mhm. If nothing else, it makes people think about it.
Yeah,
Um,
as I have just been doing.
Well, why don't we keep those as is, and in the document that we work together with, you can suggest some
Yes, there might be
merging
some.
of it if you'd like.
Sure, sounds good.
All right, let's move down to transportation.
Now, the order that we're doing these in is not the same order they appear in the plan. Transportation appears first. I don't know if that
I'm
matters.
having trouble with this, I'm sorry. Yeah, they're gonna be put wherever they
Yeah,
belong.
okay,
I
yeah.
don't quite remember why it ended up like this,
I
but.
don't even, yeah. So when in my outline, I rearranged them to be the way they are in the plan, but.
Well, something is going on. Once again, I'm going to apologize for my, can't move the document down. Um, Are you all looking at your own or this one?
I
I'm
was
looking
looking
at
at
my
this
own.
one. Oh,
Okay, let me see if I can figure out how to move it up.
let's see what this one is.
Kale, do you have the document handy?
I do. If you want to share, let me share.
Why don't we switch again? I'll stop mine.
Yeah, I'm just pulling the documents from that last email you sent. So if they're all on that email, I can share them all as we need them.
Okay, that'd be great, thanks. I am
I'm still not.
GoToMeeting illiterate. Did you get it?
I'm still not available to share. There we go.
The transportation strategies promote a changeover from fossil fuel vehicles to electric, increase infrastructure to support electric vehicles, support actions that reduce use of individual vehicle use, and reduce miles traveled by providing telecommuting options and supporting local economic growth. How do those strike you?
I just have a question about the fourth one, promoting telecommuting options. Isn't that sort of up to the individual businesses as to whether certain jobs can be completed by telecommuting?
Sure. I think what I was aiming at there was more, making sure that we have good broadband and internet access and that kind of thing.
Do we want
Yeah.
to
Um,
So
spell it out a little bit more clearly then, or telecommuting, or some examples? For example, providing telecommuting options of, you know, better broadband or
Or maybe we
better.
want to say by supporting infrastructure
broadband.
needed for telecommuting.
Okay.
ah,
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
Kind of
I
telecommuting
like
resources or infrastructure.
I'm I'm not sure if the supporting local economic growth is, it seems, I mean, it's important for people to be able to work locally, but it seems like a very big goal that's a little bit separate from transportation strategies.
True. And I'm not sure we've have any actions related to that either, but okay.
Well, we kind of
yeah.
do with supporting center development in the land use kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
Um, I changed it from economic growth. I changed the word to economic activity, but that's a it's a
Ah,
minor quibble. Just
okay.
but that and it provides for the consumption end as well as the production end associated with that. And I also I tacked onto there something about higher intensity village residential opportunities. Those also reduce vehicle miles traveled.
Yeah, I like that a lot, Michael. That's a separate one then altogether, right? Like a number 5.
I also tacked on improve information on progress towards targets on this one as well. I don't know if that's important, but because we did it with the building one, and this one also needs those kinds of tracking.
Sure.
And I thought that number two, increase infrastructure to support electric vehicle use, is kind of like almost part of number one. It's in support of number one, so I kind of made it a subsidiary again. But I don't know. I don't know if that's terribly important. It doesn't need to be. But I just thought, conceptually to me, it's something that I would do in order to do number one.
Mm-hmm.
It might be slightly different. Just number one is encouraging people when the time is right to convert their vehicles to electric vehicles, and number two is um, how do we in the town have charging stations or
It's like supporting the people that have made the changeover.
yeah.
Not something I'd be likely to go to the mat on.
Okay, well, I'll add those to that. Let's move on to renewable energy strategies. Increase local electric generation from solar, residential, wind, and other renewable sources, and promote energy storage options. And we're
Get a
probably going
little
to add,
I get a little iffy with the word renewable there though, because I think we're also looking for carbon free sources, not necessarily like that could pretty easily go into wood or biodiesel and all those other things that have questionable carbon emissions. So I
okay,
wonder if we could reword the end of
so
that.
other carbon-free sources, is that what you want?
Yeah, something along those
Low,
lines. Yeah,
or maybe
or
low
even we could even
carbon,
leave renewable and just say carbon free renewable resources.
okay.
And the promote energy storage options, I suggested tacking on something like and distribution resilience options, kind of making sure that I'm thinking there about things like microgrids and the ability to island off sections of the electric grid under, so, and those things can be linked up to.
I wonder if that would fit better in resilience, Michael,
Yeah, it could.
or be in
It's
both.
one of those dual use things. I don't feel strongly about it. It just dealing with the distribution, making sure the distribution system is up to the task is a important piece. But the certainly the resilience part of that is within resilience.
Okay. Anything else? I assume we're adding improve information on progress towards targets?
Actually, I didn't. I felt like we were able to get that pretty well. I
All
mean,
right,
I think that we should have an overall thing that improve, but
maybe.
I didn't feel like that this was quite as identifiably a problem of this particular category of thing. whereas it was of the other two.
So natural and working lands. Conserve forest land and promote forest management that will maintain and increase carbon sequestration. Promote agricultural practices that improve soil carbon sequestration and reduce the use of fossil fuel generated products. Support local food systems to reduce transportation emissions and provide food sovereignty, and implement land use policies that reduced forest clearing. You'll notice under, in the edited cap, Michael has added a land use section related um, to this section as a way to promote carbon, maintaining carbon.
And forest.
Yeah. Any comments on this section? All right.
Did we want to say anything about ag soils within this piece?
And what number 2 does?
Yeah, it does already. Improve soil carbon
Okay.
for that.
Yeah, that's fine.
It is an important aspect,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just want to make sure we don't miss it.
All right, resilience and adaptation,
Sandy,
minimize impact. Oh, excuse me.
yeah, in this section, do we want to say something that about regulating the clearing of the forest somehow or reduce for developments? I mean, we can conserve it, but unless our planning commission creates a little bit tighter standards, a lot of the, in many places where there are forest blocks, people will start building more houses within that forest block.
Does number 4 get at that, Karen?
I guess it could. Oh yeah, it does. I'm sorry. It does.
Number
Yeah.
one also, kind of sets the tone for it, I think. I thought that was covered in the strategies, higher level strategy myself.
Good. Okay, next, minimize impacts from weather-related damage to buildings, roads, and other infrastructure. Protect the health and well-being of residents. Support the development of a stronger local economy. Promote climate-smart land management to provide resilient and adaptable habitats. Protect significant forest blocks and wildlife corridors to allow for natural climate migration and adaptation of species. Enact smart growth principles in anticipation of increased migration of climate refugees. What do you think?
I thought it was good. I suggested adding one about protecting hydrologic function, something along those lines. And I made a couple of notes, stream channel preservation and protection, wetland preservation and protection, and soil maintenance, including surface infiltration and erosion practices. Those might be particulars of the hydrologic function strategy, just to give an idea. But I thought it would be useful to include hydrologic protections in that.
Okay, I have protect hydrologic functions such as stream channel protection, and what else did you
I
have?
had wetland preservation protection and soil management and protection, vegetative cover and erosion management on that.
Okay.
Kale,
Any
can you
other?
scroll it down just so I can see all? There we go. Perfect. Thanks. I'm all for number 2, protect the health and well-being of residents, but I'm trying to understand kind of what that it means. It's such an enormous goal.
Yeah. Well, within that, we have certain actions that we think will help make our community more resilient. And so that's what we're trying. I mean, health is not sure how much we're doing about that really, but
Well, you did have the neighborhood networks in there.
mhm.
Emergency preparedness has some of those characteristics. I thought it was a sufficiently valuable thing to keep in mind that I didn't
Sure.
feel like it got lost in the process.
I think I
And
have
we
to
have
remind myself.
identified, oh, go ahead.
I think I have to remind myself of the actions um, in this domain and to think about how, if there's, because I think we talked about sort of supporting, community connections and mutual support. Um, so anyway,
Right. And identifying vulnerable populations and trying to keep those in mind. Yep.
okay.
Anything else on these? And just to end the framing of the report, we haven't gotten to appendix or appendices. Um, I think this is where some of the other actions we've talked about would go, as well as any kind of rating of the actions, any kind of funding sources that we think will help out. But I think that's secondary to getting this the main part of the plan together. Does that sound all right?
Sounded good to me.
All right, let's go to the main document next, Kale.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
This one?
Yep.
What page are we looking for?
Well, we're going to start right off at the table of contents, I think is the first spot. Um, Actually, maybe we'll just skip that for now and come back to, I mean, it'll be self-explanatory once we go through all the rest of the document. So the climate page.
Yeah, I thought that page looked great.
Yeah, you're on the right page. So some of the comments that have been included are, yeah, it's funny. So you're in Word
Yeah,
and
I'm in
you
Word, but
aren't,
I can't put a cursor anywhere.
yeah, it's
But
frustrating. I'm
I can go up
sorry.
here and open it in Google Docs. I could do that right now, and I can get your comments. It doesn't look like anyone else's are in there, though.
Sure, why
So
don't
it
you
looks
try
like
to do that?
Sandy put in like comments from different people. Like, so Sandy has entered what my comments were, at least on,
Right,
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know which version. There we go.
yeah.
So is this your comment? All I saw was Sandy's comments. Oh, it does look like you added Michelle's. MK must be.
Yeah, that's me.
Um, okay, so in this section, overall, it just seemed like we wanted to focus on Underhill a little bit more, at least I did. Uh, so Fahrenheit, I think, is probably what people are going to want to see in there as well. What do you all think?
I didn't even catch that it was Celsius. Yeah, if we should have it in Fahrenheit.
Okay. Um, So for Underhill, the amount and intensity of rainfall is extreme and increased flooding is expected. And I think that should definitely be in there because a lot of our actions really relate to that sort of thing.
The short duration, high intensity deluge kind of rainfall
Yeah.
events are more important than just the amount overall.
And I
Um,
just reading it, when I read the introduction, I was annual precipitation has increased by almost 7 inches, but I wasn't sure if that was over the last 100 years, the last 20 years, or
it does kind of clarify for these different metrics, like the annual precipitation at the end of that, it does talk about a 50-year, days with more than 1 inch of rain occur almost twice as often as they did 50 years ago. So I just assumed it was a 50-year average there.
and is
But
that the
we can,
same? Yeah, is that the same time period over which temperatures have increased and spring arrives earlier and winter later? Um, I just in the intro, even in the intro text, it might say if it is over the past 50 years, then we should just say over the past 50 years. When I read it, I wasn't sure.
yeah, I agree. I think this, you know, the attempt is to make it simple and easy to grasp, but I think we want more detail than what's
More.
here. How do you feel about the two references to the international panel? Are those needed in here, or should we focus on Underhill on this page, Vermont and Underhill here? I know in the South Burlington report, they had all kinds of context, you know, sort of globally and that sort of thing, which is interesting. It just depends how long we want the report to be, I guess.
Yeah, coral reefs aren't a big issue for us.
No, but the second one kind of points out the dire straits we're in.
I like these general statements because it's just a reminder of why we're doing all this in the first place. So,
I don't know that the ideal, there must be something else in the IPCC report other than coral reefs, but
well, coastal cities will flood, drought will deplete bread baskets that today feed the world, and ecosystems will fail. So, I think those are
Yeah, it isn't
pretty
what's
dire.
affecting us today, but yeah. Uh-huh. Okay, well, we'll keep these comments as they
certainly the
are.
second one has a lot more relevance.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with that. I wonder if maybe we could remove the first one and add a Underhill specific something there instead. Just a thought. I don't know if that's going to be too difficult or to have or look weird to have an IPCC one and then an Underhill one next to it, but just a thought.
I
Well, there are
actually read
state ones in the
something
state report.
somewhere that talked about the impact of climate change in New England will be is there's a greater impact on New England than other parts of the United States.
Warming faster.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that
At one point, I had a map of Vermont sort of moving south
Yes.
on the map of the United States,
Yeah,
and it winds up
mhm,
in somewhere around North Carolina in 2050 or something like that.
that is
Mhm.
a
yeah,
good one. It's pretty, it gets us point across
Yeah,
pretty
that'd be
Yeah.
easily.
really powerful.
yeah. I think that map would be good. I think that's from Fish and Wildlife, isn't it?
I think it's been used all over the place. I don't know where it started.
Yeah, I think that you might be able to get it from them, or I might be able to cut and paste it or something.
I bet Jan can get a good copy of it for us.
Right.
And there's got to be a lot in
Okay.
the Vermont climate
Oh,
assessment
yeah.
and that kind of stuff that
Yeah.
we don't have to go with coral reefs. As important as they are, and as much as I love snorkeling on a reef, it's
Yeah.
not quite
Yeah, that
to the
first
point.
one, it takes some thought to connect how that's going to affect us in here in Underhill. It's clear that it will, but it takes some thought to get there. The second
Mhm.
quote, it's like obvious how that's going to affect us.
Right.
All right. I captured that. Let's move on to the next page. What did you think about these? examples.
Well, I'm saddened by the hermit thrush. That's one thing.
I think these
Seems
bring
like
it
a,
back to home. I mean, we're talking about
yeah,
the birds in Vermont and, the emerald ash borers and ticks.
ticks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's,
Okay.
My
Let's
only
move.
thought is I wonder if we could. There's a lot to digest here. I wonder if we could simplify it with just less. I don't know if there's any that are. There's some that are. I feel like we have to. I mean, maybe this is not the right idea. Maybe you guys disagree, but that's just one thought that comes to my mind.
It might help. I mean, I really do like this a lot, and I like the graphics. It might help to have like a bold bullet about like what the impact, just disappearance of birds, and then have like the small print below if anyone wants to read more about it, just sort of have a label on each one in bold. If
In addition to the little emblem that's there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about what would make it easier to read, and so I'm thinking just in addition to the picture, like we might be able to shorten some of those words, but just have like one bold, just a few word summary of what is on each one, and then if someone wants to read more, they can.
Okay.
But some of them are pretty short, so yeah,
Yeah, overall, I like them all. It's just
yeah.
and even still, it's not overly informative like some pages of the town plans, for example. But I just wonder if it could be even more digestible if there was a little bit less.
Or even just bolding a couple of words within each description of keywords, just to make it
Yeah, to make
easier
it pop.
easier to glance at. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if we try that first before we go cutting things. Just try bolding
Yeah.
something and
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next page. Some of the comments here, I think Michelle had suggested we move what is the climate action plan above why have a climate action plan, which I think is a good idea. So we're just reordering these two sections. Sound okay?
yep.
I was wondering if there were any newer data available or anything
Oh,
like that for the chart 3.1.
I know, but no, the answer is no. They're
Well,
working, they're just starting it
well,
now.
actually, their community data packets had stuff in them. It's a little later, like 2015 instead of 2010, I think.
Where are you talking about?
Back when they started all of this stuff, they sent out community data packets for every community and did a statewide one, and regional planning did them with detailed estimates of usage and so on and so forth. Most of the data that we use in the other tables come from that, or massaged into those tables.
Hmm. Well, according to Anne, they don't have anything more recent. They'll be working on that, but it's not available right now, which seems hard to believe.
I mean, I could construct one, but
Um, Other comments. I was hoping for something here that just talked about the difference between carbon-free and renewable. I know some of the goals are to increase renewable, but if we're telling people that we're 100% carbon-free, they may misinterpret that as, well, why do we need more renewables if we're already there? And a lot of that is out of state purchases that the companies do, and it's not, it's not local, and it's, uh,
They're doing the carbon credits anyway to get it, some of those. But
yeah.
that was one of the questions that I had in an overall vein that I didn't see addressed anywhere. And that was that, are we assuming or shooting to do any sort of a set proportion of our generation needs within our borders? I think that most of the RPC kind of implicitly assumes 50% of our own needs will be met within our borders, but we do not walk up to and examine that and embrace it or not. And I think that that could be helpful in terms of addressing this. That's one of the questions, why we would be dealing with some of that. We should need to take responsibility for it, not export our money, and all those things.
So what amount of our renewable targets?
Well, of our energy needs are going to be met within our borders. If we electrify everything, at least in theory, we could meet X whatever percent we assign.
Within the state borders or the
Town borders.
town border?
Town borders is what I understand that when they're setting the needs and so on and so forth, I do not know for sure, but I think that was the assumption that was included.
Okay. Okay. A few grammatical things in there. On the last red item, I thought it was important to include in here that we're talking about resilience and adaptation as well. I think a lot of climate action plans only address,
Mitigation.
yeah, reducing greenhouse gases rather than also trying to look at adaptation.
That's
Any
great.
other comments on this page? Okay, maybe we'll move on. In this section, I didn't want to just have it GHG because I'm not sure everyone knows what that is, and having a title that way didn't caught me wrong. But I also think this is partly an inventory and partly looking at reductions. So I thought that was important to include. Um, Michelle wanted to know, I guess, when the action plan was, what year that is. And that's for Anne to determine.
I think
I
it's
also,
cited
is
I
it
think it's
cited?
cited below in the next second paragraph is 2014, but I think when it's first mentioned, it might be helpful just to give that context. Not a big deal.
Right. Okay. Um, I also got thinking a lot about what we have in here that's real data and what we have in here that are estimates. And so I started putting estimate words in there just to emphasize that we don't really have a great handle on some of this. I don't know. Is that okay with you all?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I think it's uh, more transparent to say estimate.
And then this
I wonder,
section here.
sorry, I was muted. I have one comment on that though. I do think estimate is better, more transparent, but I wonder if like something like calculation fits better because I think it's a little more than an estimate. But you're right, it's not like a true in like they didn't count each one to get an inventory. I would recommend using calculation.
Okay. They, they did have, Anne did have accounting, which is
That's quite,
similar to calculation.
Yeah,
yeah.
accounting, greenhouse inventory accounting.
So you want to stick with that rather than put estimates?
How about assessment? That doesn't have the accounting, dot the i's and cross the t's kind of connotation to it, but does, it's a little more than just, a lick and a prayer.
I think the word estimate is more important in the second paragraph because it's a very specific number,
Oh,
17,787 metric tons. And um, so I like adding the estimate there in the first paragraph. I'm okay
That's
with
actually
any
where
of
I was
those.
looking.
Um,
But
okay.
either one.
Yeah.
yeah.
The first one, I think accounting is fine. And then, like you say, I would like estimate in that specific number.
Yeah. I would agree with
That's fine.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
Then the paragraph, oh, just saying I'd like to redo the tables. You see what I mean about the tables? They're they're just copied from the town plan,
Yep.
and I think they could be simplified in a different way so that it's more obvious what they're talking about.
Yeah, I think that they could be cleaned up crisp.
The
I agree.
RCP
And
created those, right? Sandy?
What's that?
Did the planet regional planning commission create those? That's not something Andrew created, is it?
Right. Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah, they
maybe Anne will be able to switch it up for us.
Yeah, it's just a matter of putting the data into a different format so the whole document has the same type of format. That was all I
Yep.
was thinking. What do you think about changing light duty transportation to small cars and small trucks?
I don't have a problem with it. I've gotten used to hearing light duty
I
transportation, so
know.
it just sort of
I
rolls
had
off.
no
But
idea what it meant when I
yeah,
first
I
read
think
it.
maybe other people don't. So
I think anything we can do to translate terms that everyday people might not be familiar with would be really helpful. I didn't really know what that meant until we started talking about it.
Agreed.
Mm, agreed.
Okay, next page, I guess. There's just, I don't know what that second was there. Oh,
Sorry.
in the table also, there's MMBTUs, and it would be good to spell that out. And if you redid the tables, you could have a footnote or something that did that. So,
yeah, it took me forever. I'm kind of used to a big M as being a million, and I guess the new thing now is to do MM for reasons I never quite figured out. But after a while, I just sort of said, okay, it's not just them; it's what they do. So
huh?
I think in
Yeah, that would
general
be great.
that we should review the whole report once it's closer to being done for spelling out every accurate, like every abbreviation the first time. Like some people may not know what a BTU is, for example, like just spelling it out the first time.
Yeah.
is it worth? I've seen, in fact, almost all National Academies documents have one of their very first pages, just a
Oh,
page of important
Yes.
abbreviations that are
Oh,
used in this
yeah.
document. I
Huh.
don't know
that's
if
not
that's
a bad
worthwhile.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Next page, I guess, yeah, which just has that on it. So keep going.
Yeah.
So the equity section,
Yeah, the pages are no longer aligned with the old page numbers, so I have
no,
stuff keyed to the old page numbers that aren't the old page numbers anymore, so I don't, that does kind of throw me off a little bit, but.
let's see. Okay, I wondered, these questions are being asked, who's helped, who's harmed, who's missing. Is that something we should try to think about as a group and include uh, somehow in some of the sections? Guess that's the big question, isn't it?
Well, each one, any action that we take could be different from any other action. I
Yeah.
mean, in a way, it would mean doing that. I could see doing like an overall kind of thing that says, we're trying to do X, Y, Z, but to try to do something like that, I mean, one thing would have an impact very different from another thing. And I think that it could be as big as the rest of the report put together kind of thing to try to do that. I think an equity section, an equity assessment would be useful, but to try to do it on an individual basis, an action basis, I think would be a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I read that sentence as asking the whatever body it is in the future that's going to take up one of these recommendations, asking them to ask these questions. So if the
Yeah.
planning commission in 5 years takes this report and starts working on one of the actions, they're supposed to look at it and say who's being helped, who's being harmed, who's being missing. Maybe we could be more explicit about that, but that's kind of the way I read that.
Okay.
I mean, it kind of begs the question about this process of this small group of people that volunteered to serve on this task force, and are there, you know, underheard voices that, should or could be represented in this process. So I'm not saying we should change this process, but that's kind of part of the question is, you know, are we representing here um, people who may be, anyway, but I agree with you, Kale. I also interpreted it as we move forward in implementing any of these recommendations, we want to make sure that we're thinking about these questions.
Sounds good. Let's go on to the next section. Transportation.
Okay.
Which is no longer on page 10.
Yeah, again, I was trying to change cars and small trucks there so we'd understand. And my question about 2035, it basically says that, so I don't know why I asked that. Um, The addition of reducing travel to work by supporting internet connectivity expansion and upgrades will be another major boost. Is that saying what we need it to?
I think Michael's point earlier about um, putting efforts into central locations like the villages where people can walk and not use vehicles. I don't have language for that per se off the top of my head, but I think we could probably pretty easily add a sentence there on that. I think even
It's
smart
more of a,
growth principles are pretty much on that.
okay, to condense.
Yeah, I actually have a lot in here, and I think it would go beyond what I think is reasonable to try to plow our way through this evening. I mean, things like, maintain the transit system, and the 36 bus, I think would be a high impact action for this. And I also had a question arising out of this relative to the input to the chart 3.1. Does it include only transportation with origin and destination inside of Underhill, or is it through traffic in Underhill? And that would make a big difference in terms of, how we deal with that and how do we define waste and, a few of those those things that I had quite a few um, items here that I would like to review and just sort of put in for everybody's consideration, more than makes sense to try to plow through, I think, without having people having an opportunity to see it.
Okay.
And I lost
So
track. Where are those comments that Michael shared?
he hasn't put them in, and he's
Oh,
suggesting that we wait until the next version to,
I would like to put them in for everybody to get a chance to see. That's why I'm hoping that we can do the Google Docs so that everybody can see, and also give me an opportunity to sort of see how does this fit with what's already there
okay.
cleanly. So
And just a
um,
clarifying question, I think the broad strategies we discussed at the beginning, are we saying we would insert each of those strategies before the actions into this report?
yes, yes.
Okay, I just
So
want to make sure I understood that.
my feeling is we would have the title transportation, and then we'd have, the strategies that we're trying to accomplish here, and then we'd have this text as you see it here.
Okay, thank you.
I am still not sure about why this electric school bus is highlighted and it doesn't match the targets. I, I'm I don't understand why she thought that that was not part of the.
I don't know
Oh, I get it.
who put that in there.
Well, Anne highlighted as
Yeah,
not being part of the target. And now that I look at the target, our targets are only based on cars and small trucks. They're not based on larger vehicles. So that's why that's not part of our target.
We have another target for heavy duty vehicles because we
Well,
should.
we didn't have one in the town plan, I don't think, because I don't know that those
well,
aren't as advanced.
well, I think we just accepted whatever the regional
Yeah.
allocation of a target was, given that we had no other basis for setting one. But I'm not sure why we wouldn't be interested in, even though it's not officially part of that target, why we wouldn't be interested in accomplishing what we could accomplish by doing that. Other people have suggested, now admittedly it would be relatively, minor collection, but, some of the town vehicles and that sort of thing, even heavy vehicles, let's see, electrification or biodiesel location would work for some of those. I don't think that we need to take that off the table just because it doesn't sort of officially get filtered back into that target. I'm not sure why it's in there at all and then say take it out. It mystifies me a little bit, but.
Why it's in there at all?
Well, I mean, if Anna's suggesting take it out, why did she put it in?
Oh,
I'm not sure about that, but where'd it come from?
I might have put it in.
Okay, that would do.
Maybe we want to say something about, future goals would address the large vehicles, whatever they're called.
Larger vehicles, yeah. And certainly I mean, regionally, trucking and so on and so forth, that's, we're looking to electrify that too. Not gonna have those things running around burning diesel.
Okay, let's move on to buildings.
Well, should we, have this adapt a policy to require all no buildings to have an appropriate amount. Shouldn't that be down
What's that?
under buildings? Up in the transportation targets, we have the adopt a policy to require all new buildings to have an appropriate amount of electric vehicle charging equipment. Should that perhaps be better, moving it down into the section about buildings? I mean, I see the relationship with transportation and charging, but on the other hand, it's a rhetorical question. You don't.
I thought it responded to a transportation need, supportive electrification. Most of the building piece is we called it buildings, but it's heating and cooling actually is what, that's piece of that slice of that pie, I think is what this is trying to get at. So I think that in that sense, even though we distribute them in buildings around town, it's effectively a transportation solution.
One of
Yeah,
the
I kind
one
of
of
agree
the
with Karen though, because the requirement is on the building, not on the transportation. But I also think we're talking about semantics because it fits in both.
And is there ever electric vehicle charging equipment that's not necessarily tied to a new building? I mean, so it could be at a gas station or I think we want to, maybe sorry, it's so tiny. I gotta, um,
Yeah, one of the things that Michael was suggesting adding was to include EV chargers at gas stations and parking lots. So I'm speaking for you now, Michael.
Fine, you're doing a great
Uh,
job.
you pull up to get gas, but you could also pull up to get charge. That sort of
yeah,
parallel there.
yeah, I think it could go either way, given the other items around charging stations are here. I think the specific one about new buildings could go under the building section.
The more I think about it, I think I've been thinking on it from a zoning lens from my time as a zoning administrator and on the planning commission. I think the way this document seems to be laid out, I think Michael's right. The building section is really dealing with how to make buildings efficient, and the charging stations have nothing to do with making the buildings efficient. They
Okay,
have to do
good.
with making 40% of cars electrified. So I think the more I think about it, I think it's right where it belongs. I
I might
totally
just
see
not
where
make,
Karen was coming from, though.
yeah. Perhaps that doesn't need to be the first bullet there, like some of the other ones about charging stations. Like I would put all the charging station ones first, and then like school bus one is like right in the middle of several charging station examples. So I might just order them in a way that,
Okay. One thing that I've been learning is that buildings are not all equipped to handle the kind of EV charging that's needed for vehicles. And maybe we should be adding something either in the buildings or in the transportation that that talks about improving electric capacity in residential homes.
Basically requiring 200 amp service in all new construction.
Well, even I was looking at the new IRA
Mhm.
funding opportunities, and they're offering funding for homes that want to upgrade their electric boxes and upgrade their electric system so that they could have that capacity.
Mhm.
Um, and
Right.
I think that's a really important goal if we want people to have vehicles and everybody has old homes that can't deal with it.
And it
Um,
also supports heat pumps, and it also makes it a lot easier to connect renewables, household renewables to the system as well.
okay. So we can add this under
Yep,
building
that would be great.
and it would serve for all of those. So it would be increase electric capacity.
Yes, require, a higher standard in new construction and promote upgrades in existing structures.
I think that's the piece we want. I feel like the piece about requiring the charging equipment for electric cars in the transportation sector probably covers all the new buildings. We probably want something in the building section that gets at upgrading older buildings that aren't capable of doing that right now.
Okay. Anything, oh, I know in this section we have highlighted implement an ordinance requiring new buildings, all but affordable housing, to have 85% of heat come from non-fossil fuel sources. Um, Both Michael and I feel like we should nix the affordable housing thing, that everybody needs efficient heating.
Yeah, I
That's
think it's an
not going to
equity
cost as
issue.
much.
So that was my question. I know markets change, but is it a lot more expensive to heat with like electric heat pumps than it is to heat with oil?
Cheaper,
It can be cheaper.
typically.
One thing I learned recently is it depends on the house design. So for heat pumps, if you have a house design that where you have a lot of different rooms, then you may need to put a lot more different heat pumps in. So
Okay.
that initial upfront cost might be greater than if you have sort of an open
Open
floor
plan.
plan, that kind of thing.
But this is for new buildings is what this clause is. So presumably the buildings could be designed to support that.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because Dave Mullins at Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity was talking about how that was really, South Burlington has implemented this, and it was really going to put a kink in their works because
Hmm.
all their designs are not built that way. So that was
Yeah,
why I mentioned it.
it's gonna make it more expensive for affordable housing in the short term, but I think it becomes an equity issue if we're then giving them an exemption and then 10 years down the line they're paying through the roof because they're the only people left paying for oil and everyone else is on some other
I agree.
sorts of energy at
Yeah,
that point.
We're saddling the people least able to pay with
yeah.
Yep.
ongoing expenses forever.
It is a
And
balance,
right
but
now, there are the incentives right now for that. So hopefully we can connect people with that.
I have one thought
Yeah,
on
and I
that
think
though, kind of the reverse of my comment from earlier. I wonder if on the heating front, if we want to use renewable instead of non-fossil fuel to allow wood stoves.
as a supplement. Well, I don't think anybody is suggesting we wouldn't allow kind of wood stoves. I mean, we're not really pushing wood as a major heating source, but
Well, if we're pushing for
um,
85% from non-fossil fuel, your wood stove could only be 15% of your heating. I guess that'd be hard to gauge, but
well,
that's what this is
Oh,
saying.
this is a
wood
great
isn't a
point. Just
fossil fuel.
yeah.
Oh,
Personally,
I'm sorry. You're right. You said it's fossil fuel. I'm getting my terms mixed up. I'm thinking
can
of
you scroll
greenhouse.
the page down to the language that we're talking about? I just want
Sorry,
to.
I'm a little bit further down.
There we
Michael
go.
pointed out my error. It says fossil fuel, and I had greenhouse gas in my head, not fossil fuels. You're right.
Yeah, it's not.
It is worded correctly. Don't mind me.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
To have 85% of heating come from non-fossil fuel,
Yep. So
So
not
I,
gas,
that
oil.
allows wood.
that does.
As
I,
opposed to
I
non-carbon.
consider wood to be fossil fuel.
That's
It
my, yeah, that's,
releases carbon, but it's not a fossil fuel. It doesn't come from under the ground. Fossil
Oh,
fuels means like
okay.
oil and gas and
No, I
petroleum
know
and all
that.
those things.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
that's
because,
tripped me up too.
okay, but I think that maybe we need to change the wording a little bit because a lot of people reading this will make the same conclusion. Oh, wait a minute, that excludes wood.
Yeah, maybe we just use renewable.
Yeah.
yeah. And not all wood burning is the same either. We personally, we have we invested in this like wood gasification boiler thing that like that's how we heat our house, but it's not like a wood stove that is, it burns really hot and clean, and it's pretty fancy technology, but that's how we mostly heat is by wood from our property.
Hmm.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
So I'm going to change that to renewable rather than non-fossil fuel sources. Okay. Let's move on. Renewable energy section.
Not seeing a lot of comments there.
Yeah. Um, Michael had observed that in the graphics, the prime solar areas have a lot fewer acres than the base, yet in the next chart where it's talking about generation, that is a lot higher, prime is a lot higher than the base. So that will need clarifying with Chittenden County, and Ann will have to address that. Um, what
I think I'm
else?
having trouble with table 3.15 because it's saying solar potential is 795 acres. Um, and that would open up an awful lot of acres, let's say our scenic corridor on Pleasant Valley Road, or, and this is where renewable energy may be hitting the rub with um, our fantastic views and living areas and use of the land for other things.
Well, let me just clarify how these were obtained, Karen. And it isn't like one patch of 795 acres. It's a little bit here and a little bit there.
Hmm.
First, there was an analysis that showed where solar arrays would get the best solar, catching the solar, right? So
Hmm.
that was the first phase. And that is basically the base potential. And then the prime potential is taking that and saying, okay, where are there some constraints that will prevent us from putting in solar arrays? So that's why then the second part is reduced to that. When you look at the map, it's dotted all over town. I don't know if any of that is in the scenic corridor or not.
I think that would have been
It would have been a constraint.
constrained. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, what about
Um,
Chamberlain? All of the Chamberlain farm areas on River Road, perfect for solar, but it comes at a
yeah, but
cost.
Prime ag.
that's ag field, so that's a constraint.
Okay,
So it
where
would
I
have
don't.
been eliminated from there. Yeah.
And where do we find the constraints? Is that going to be in an
In the
appendix?
town report has all of that in it. If you wanted
Also,
to
all
look
of
at it.
those energy thing. I'm looking to see if I can find it on here. And those energy documents that the regional planning put out also had that.
Well, that's where we got it for our town
Right,
plan.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We can look at that later, but this is just showing that we have potential and there are areas that could support it. It's not saying that's where they have to go. Uh, I did some word changing, thinking that I didn't really care about Chittenden County's, how they did that, but I don't know what you all think.
Yeah, here's a map of the state constraints from that energy document. The other, I've lost my mouse here. Here it is.
Right there, Kitty.
I mean, most of the stuff is constrained. Potential solar energy resource areas. This shows what they are, and there's very little on Pleasant Valley.
Yeah, I can send you some map references, Karen, so you can look at that in detail, okay?
Okay, that sounds good.
Um, I guess we're on the next page. Under, yeah.
Sandy, I know this meeting was scheduled to adjourn at 8, and I'm wondering if we're still aiming for that. It's just about 5 to 8, and I need to excuse myself in a little bit.
Do you need to leave at 8? Who needs to leave at 8? Everybody planning on that?
Hmm.
I kind of
Yeah,
factored it
Scott.
in,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
guess if we really, I would find it helpful to, like I said, to put these into a Google Doc, rather than try to wordsmith between us and then go through with everybody's comments and, then we'd have everything from everyone. That would, I think for me, that would work best. But others,
Okay.
I'm open to other suggestions.
We do have quite a lot left in the document to go over.
I mean, I find this
It's so
process pretty
helpful.
helpful, but I'll be honest, I've been literally sitting at this desk since 7:30 this morning, and I'm utterly exhausted, and I just need to yeah, I can take maybe 10 more minutes.
Yeah. Uh,
Should we make it through page 14 at least?
yeah, let's finish up this section. Uh, I don't see that much here that we need to
Oh, I
look
had a
at.
lot of them if I wanted to do it, but again, it would really help to, put it in so people could see it and say, was that lousy or whatever, know how it fits together.
Hmm.
Yeah, one of the questions you had asked, Michael, was about, so these estimates are, what happens if our population increases dramatically? If these are based on us generating a certain percentage of
Right.
our renewables, how is that going to affect this? Are there any population increase models about climate migration was another question. But, okay, well, I think we finished this section, so we're on to the carbon sequestration one. It probably would be a good place to break and just talk about next steps. Um,
Okay. And we haven't done the natural and working lands. So is that what you mean by carbon? That's
That's
not exact.
next.
Oh, no, it's after. Yeah, it's next, and then carbon sequestration. Yeah. So these are good. Uh, Uh-oh. Did people hang up?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, they're having technical difficulties. We give them a minute to rejoin. Oh, they're back.
These-
Type her a comment, see if she can see that.
is it the town hall that's offline now?
Well, they're back on, but they're muted with no camera.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. They are. Hmm.
Wonder what happened. Oh, here's another one. Come, there they are.
They're twice.
One is muted and one is not. Which one are
We didn't
they?
run out on you.
Yep.
Oops.
Oh no.
They're gone again.
I wonder what's going on.
I know it's not because of me, but it seems like every time I close something on my end, they disappear. They can't be me.
Oh, the power from afar.
That's right. All right, one more time. Hello?
Hi.
You're back.
No,
Shucks, thought we'd get out.
there.
Now they're muted. Can you hear us? We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
But it's echoing.
No, not too badly.
You're logged
All
on
right.
twice.
I know I tried to get out of one of them and then I went away. So let's just finish up. Next steps is we will get the Google Doc ready and get that out to everyone with the edits that we made tonight. Um, and the next meeting we would have scheduled would be February 22nd, which is in a few weeks. So between now and then, people should have a chance to edit, and then we can get back together. The other announcement I have is that the UVM class sent me their report. It's quite long, but I will send it out to everyone. There are some tidbits that are really interesting. Some of the maps
Oops.
are not great, and I asked for the originals so we know where they're talking about because they are important. Anything else for tonight? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I'll move.
Michael and Karen second it.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I
Aye.
The ayes have it.